Welcome back, yogis. Time to do some yoga. Always a pleasure to be here with you. Unroll your mat, grab some props. Today we're going to be doing more grounding work as we have welcomed in the new autumn season. So grab a blanket, grab a strap if you have it, or something that you can use. A belt would be fine, a towel, blocks if you have them. Let's get going. Hello again. Today we start in a seated position on the mat. Extend both legs around front. We'll begin in Dandasana, staff pose. As I mentioned, we have welcomed in the new autumn season, so our yoga practice changes from season to season, and when the winds pick up and the temperatures drop, we look for things that are comforting, warming, and grounding. Our yoga practice is no different. So starting in Dandasana, you can take a blanket. If you don't have one, that's okay too. You can just sit without it. If you have a blanket and would like to use it, you can either sit on it right beneath the sit bones, or you can roll it up, slide it under the knees for a little support this way. This might feel very nice for the hamstrings or the low back. Completely up to you if you'd like to do that. All 10 toes point up toward the sky. Sit tall. Feel the shoulders relax away from the ears. Keep the chest lifted, and either letting your hands rest on the legs, or you can bring the hands to the outsides of your hips with your arms lined up with your torso. As you sit tall, if you're not using a prop behind your knees, you can make this a very active seated pose, believe it or not, by reaching the backs of your kneecaps toward the mat, which you may notice lifts your heels a little bit off the mat. Keeping all 10 toes pointing up toward the sky. Sometimes the tendency is for the feet to roll out a little bit. We want the legs to roll in, the toes to remain pointing up. Really activating the pose, engaging Mula Bandha, right? That's the root lock lifting up through the pelvic floor. Uddiyana Bandha, right? Draw the belly in toward the spine. Now the legs are engaged, right? The bandhas are engaged. Your gaze is right past the nose. And of course, if this becomes too active, right, if you need to give yourself a little breather, you can just let the legs soften. Otherwise, hold here, connect with your breath. Feel free to engage a gentle ujjayi. Right, that's that slight snoring sound at the back of the throat. Kicks up some nice energy, a little bit of heat. Let's give ourselves another 3 or so deep breaths. And just let your legs relax. If you have a blanket or a prop behind the knees, just remove it to the side. Continue sitting tall. Let your hands rest on the legs. Walk your hands out. Enjoy a nice forward fold. Let it be nice and easy though. No struggle. If you want to grab a strap here, you certainly can. If you're not using a strap or a belt and the hands don't reach, let your hands rest on the legs. But find length. Continue to reach forward, right? Even if your hands don't reach. just so we create some space along the spine, opening up a little bit through the shoulders. Take another deep breath. Walk the hands in a little bit as you return upright, bending up at the right knee. Step the right foot outside the left leg. Artemis Andrasana, seated spinal twist, chest up, twist to your right. Drop the right arm back, lengthen, and open up to the right. Maybe gaze past the right shoulder. Sit bones pressing down, but lifting up through the crown of the head. Let the breath move one more time. Come back to center. Give yourself a very brief counter stretch to the left. Return to the middle. Let's unwrap the right leg, bend the left knee, and step the left foot over. Same thing, twisting, wrap the right arm, drop the left arm back, open. Soft gaze past the nose, maybe looking past the left shoulder if that's a reasonable ask. Always modifying your practice, of course, as you see fit. One more breath. Coming back to center, grab a brief counter stretch, go right. Unwrapping your left leg, let's come on to hands and knees. So the theme of our practice as we get grounded, we actually are going to be dialing things down a little bit to fall in line with, bringing things down and finding that sense of comfort, that warmth, but still activating the body very much. So don't you worry about that. You can tuck or untuck the toes here, arching the spine, come into a little cow pose, let the eyes look up. Cat pose as you exhale, round it down, tuck the tailbone, press up between the shoulder blades. Inhaling, arching. Exhaling, rounding. You can even close the eyes if you like here. Continuing with the breath, 3 more deep breaths. One more breath. Bringing it back to a neutral spine, opening the eyes if they're not already open. Spread the fingers wide, tuck your toes. Let's come to our first down dog of the day. Hips up and back. Feel free to walk out your feet a little bit, stretching out the legs. Again, just shaking things up, shaking things off, and kicking up some energy. Big inhale, lift the heels up. Big exhale, sink the heels down. Good. Let's lower the elbows down, coming into Dolphin Pose. When your elbows lower down, interlace the fingers and keep the shoulders moving away from the ears. So your head does not rest down on the mat. Let's give it another deep breath. And lowering your knees down to the mat. Bring your hands back down on the mat. So you're on hands and knees. Let's do a little side plank action modified. Slide the right leg back behind you. Keep your left hand down. The right leg will stack on top. And of course, if you'd rather do the full variation with both legs straight, feel free to do that. Facing the right side of the room, float the right arm up And if you want to go for it, if you're doing the variation that I am with the left knee on the mat, feel free to lift the right leg, grab your right hand to the right foot, and kick the right foot back. So we got a balancing stretch, we got a heart opening stretch. One more breath. Let's release out, let's come back to center. I'm on hands and knees, we'll go the other way. Left leg back, turn the left foot flat, right hand down, or you can keep both legs straight if you prefer the more active variation. Float the left arm up, hold here, breathe, and of course, if you did it on the first side, if you're doing the same variation I am, float the left leg up, take your left hand to the foot, kick back into your hand, breathe, balance, keep it fired up. We'll release out nice and easy, come back to hands and knees, spread the fingers wide, let's return to down dog. Put a soft bend in the knees, listen carefully, walk your hands back to your feet. So you're folding over the legs at the back of the mat. Your feet are about hip width distance apart, grab the big toes in yogi toe lock, lift the chest. Padangusthasana, lengthen as you fold, elbows out to the side, sit bones high, crown of the head to the mat. Feel free to modify here. You can hang over the legs with your hands holding opposite elbows. One more deep breath. Let's lift the chest, inhale. Exhale, release the toes, walk your hands out again in downward facing dog. Lift the right leg high, put a bend in the knee, let the hip roll open. Relax the head down, maybe peek under the left arm, one breath. Level out the hips and step your right foot outside the right hand. Come into your wide-legged fold, face the left side of the room. So walk your hands to the left, bring the right toes in with you. Prasarita Padottanasana, the feet are 3 to 4 feet apart. Fold over the legs, and you can either just keep your hands down, maybe line up the fingertips in line with your big toes. You can hold on to the lower legs, reach the crown of the head down, or you can do what I'm about to do, which is dropping elbows and forearms on the mat, kind of tractioning in this hanging fold. Soften the shoulders out of the ears. Remember, no locking the knees. We want the legs active. Slight micro bend. And one more full breath. And bring your hands back to the mat. Lift the chest. Bring your hands to the waist, and with a flat back, slowly press up to stand. Come up slow. I don't know about you, but I am definitely warmed up. Turn the right toes to the front of the room. Let's warrior two. Bend the right knee, reach the arms out. Right, nice grounding practice. Doesn't have to be a ton of movement, just a little bit. Just enough to get warmed up here. Look over the right middle finger, take another deep breath. Let's reverse the warrior, sweep the right arm over. Parsva Konasana, side angle, drop the right arm down and sweep the left arm around, coming into your angle. If you'd like to work this a little deeper, you can always straighten your right arm toward the floor, maybe put a block under the right hand. You can also take a half bind, wrapping the left arm around the lower back, or even a full bind if you're ready to do that, the right arm inside the front leg. If you have a more advanced practice, go for it. Keep the chest lifted, lengthen the spine, and let's hold for one more breath. Low lunge, lower your hands, turn on the back toes. Parsvottanasana, turn the back heel at a 45-degree angle and straighten the front leg. Feel free to grab blocks under the hands here if the blocks help having a little bit more height, right? Or not, if you don't need them, that's okay. Find length along the spine, crown of the head toward the mat, forehead to the right shin. Try to level the hips. One more deep breath. Lifting the chest, inhale. And exhale, put a bend in the right knee and let's come into Pigeon Pose. Extend the left leg back, sit tall. And level the hips. Modify on the back if you need to today. All right, keep the chest up, hips level. Walk your hands out. You can roll a blanket or slide a block under the right hip or thigh if you find that you're sliding to the right. You can also put a bolster or a block under your torso, under your forehead. Soften into the stretch and let's give it another 2 or 3 deep breaths. As you come out, bring the hands in, lift the head up and roll to your outer right hip. Sweep the left leg around. Navasana, boat pose. Start with your knees bending, roll back slightly off the tailbone, lift the legs and let go. Feel free to hold it here or straighten out the legs. Keep the chest lifted, the gaze soft past the nose, up toward your toes. Keep the inner thighs rolling in. And let's give it another deep breath or 2. Soften the knees, bend the knees, feet down, extend the legs out. Walk your hands out and reach for your feet. Use a strap or belt if you need, and of course, if you want to slide the blanket behind your knees, feel free. Let's hold for 2 or 3 deep breaths. One more. Slide the hands in, return upright again. Let's come on to hands and knees. Let's meet in downward facing dog. Feel free if you'd like to flow through a plank chaturanga, you certainly can. Or maybe challenge yourself today to not, right? Deliberately moving things a little bit slower while still keeping them very much fired up. When you return to your down dog, soften the knees, listen carefully, walk your hands back to your feet. Once again, Padahastasana, hand to foot pose. Lift the chest, lift the fronts of the feet, slide the hands under. With your exhale, drop the toes down, head down, round, right? Lengthen. Press down through the legs and just let the head soften. If you're modifying, you're in ragdoll pose, holding hands to opposite elbows. Just make sure you switch the grip so the opposite hand is on top this time. Let's give it another deep breath or 2. With your next inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, releasing out your hands. Down dog, walk the hands back out. Once again, lift the left leg. Put a bend in the knee, let the hip roll open, relax the head down, maybe peek under the right arm to stabilize the shoulders. One more breath. Level the hips, step your left foot outside the left hand. Prasarita Padottanasana, walk your hands to the right, travel to the right. Now we're facing the right side of the room, making sure the feet are parallel to each other, 3 to 4 feet apart. Hang over the legs, and again, you can just hold with the hands down, crown of the head to the mat, hands to the lower legs or grabbing onto big toes, or if you did it on the first side, right, you can lower the elbows, forearms down, interlacing fingers and just hanging in the grounding stretch. Micro bend in the knees, and of course if the knees actually need to bend, put a little bend in them, that's okay. Show yourself some kindness. And let's take another deep breath or two. Just soften in the stretch. As you release, lower the hands flat to the mat, lift the chest. Bring both hands to the waist, and with a flat back, slowly press up. Right, not coming up too fast. Breathe. And warrior 2 to the front. Turn the left toes forward. Right toes in slightly. Reach the arms out. Gazing past the left middle finger. Keeping the breath fired up. One more time. Let's reverse the warrior, flip the left palm, sweep the left arm over, Parsva Konasana, side angle, left arm down, sweep the right arm around. Modifying as you need, and of course, if you're working this deeper, half bind, full bind if you did it on the first side. Lengthen the spine. Let's give it another full breath. Low lunge, lower the hands, turn on the back toes. Parsvottanasana, turn the back heel down. Grab blocks if you need under the hands as you straighten the front leg. Lengthen. Forehead to the left shin, try to level the hips. The left thigh rotates in a little. The right thigh rotates out slightly. And let's take another deep breath or so. And pressing through the legs, lifting the chest, pigeon pose, bend the left knee, slide the left knee through, right leg back, sit tall. Modify as you need. Props if you need, either blanket under the left hip or a bolster, block. Keep the chest lifted, lengthen, and walk your hands out as you extend, forehead down. Props as you see fit, of course, and let's give it another 2 or 3 deep breaths. One more. Coming out nice and easy, bring the hands in, lift the head, the chest up, roll to the outer left leg, sweep the right leg around, Navasana, boat pose, one more set. We're rolling back slightly off the tailbone. Start with the knees bending, feet up, arms out, either hold it here or straighten the legs. Keep the chest lifted. Gaze past the toes, which should be right past the nose. One more breath. Are you warm yet? Let's bend the knees, feet feet down, extend the legs out. Another forward fold, walk your hands out, reach for the feet, use a strap or belt if you need, slide a blanket behind the knees if you choose, and let's take another 2 or 3 deep breaths. One more time. Come up slow, bring the hands in, uncurl, bend the knees, lay back on your mat, hug the knees in toward the chest. Feel free to rock a little side to side if that feels good, or maybe taking a happy baby pose. And as we wind down our practice today, let's do a little inversion. We'll do shoulder stand Sarvangasana, maybe into Halasana if you'd like, as an option to skip going upside down. You can always take your legs up the wall, which is still technically upside down but restorative, or you can Supta Baddha Konasana, bring the soles of the feet together with the knees dropping out, resting your hands on the legs or on the belly, and of course you're always welcome to put blocks or bolsters, blankets, anything under the knees to support your hips, okay? Otherwise, if you're going upside down today, just carefully, as long as you're not working through any head, neck, or shoulder injuries, and keeping in mind when you do shoulder stand, you're only looking up toward your legs, toward your feet. Do not turn your head when you have your legs up. You don't want to do anything potentially dangerous to your neck, right? So always be mindful of how you move and breathe. And you can hold it here. Or if you want to take your plow pose, Halasana, slowly bring the legs over. And only if your toes touch down, you can release the arms, interlace fingers behind you on the mat. And we'll meet again with the legs up. And slowly lower down onto the mat. Take your counter stretch, either taking Matsyasana fish pose using a block or blanket between the shoulder blades, or you can roll onto your belly for cobra pose, or you can just do the active fish pose. I'm a big fan of using a prop, so I am lining up a block along my spine where the block lines up between my shoulder blades. The head drops back and the arms drop out toward the sides. Let's take 3 to 5 deep breaths. If you're in the hip stretch, you can fold the knees in, windshield wiper the knees, and of course if you'd like to join in on fish pose, you're welcome to do so as well, especially since, that is still a release for the hips, even though it's a subtle release. Let's take another deep breath or two. And as we release again, bend the knees. Either if you're not using a block, just let yourself lower onto the mat and hug the knees in. Or if you're using a prop like I am, roll to your side, remove the prop from behind you, roll onto your back, hug the knees in, releasing any way that feels good for you. And Bringing your feet back down on the mat, extending legs out on the mat. Let's start to set up Shavasana, our final relaxation. Extending out the legs, separate the feet. Feel free to roll up a blanket or a bolster behind the knees to support your Shavasana, which helps to release the low back a little more. That might feel really nice. Turn the palms up so the shoulders relax back a little easier on the mat. Then close your eyes. Let go of any ujjayi breathing. Just settle back into stillness, into a few moments of darkness, just so you can turn everything off, enjoying the recovery and restoration you deserve after this grounding and heating practice. Feel free to remain in your Shavasana as long as you have time for. Otherwise, I will leave you here today. Feel free if you'd like to stretch the legs, reach the arms over, and roll to your side, finishing in a seated position, bringing palms together at the heart and softening your chin to your chest. Take a moment just reflecting on your intentions and always taking a moment to honor your efforts and honor your practice today. I thank you for sharing your practice with me once again. Until we meet again on the mat, namaste.